Hi friends, welcome to Talevora. Today, we uncover the extraordinary life of Vincent van Gogh, a man who transformed pain into beauty and loneliness into timeless art. He was rejected, misunderstood, and lived in poverty. During his lifetime, he sold only one painting, while today his masterpieces are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Why did the world ignore a genius? What drove him to create some of history's greatest works? And what really happened during the final days of his tragic life? This is not just the story of a painter. It is the story of hope, heartbreak, sacrifice, and a legacy that changed the world forever. Let's begin. Vincent Willem van Gogh was born on March 30th, 1853, in the quiet Dutch village of Zundert. At first glance, his childhood looked peaceful. His father was a respected Protestant pastor. His mother loved nature and drawing, and the family lived a simple life surrounded by green fields and farmland. But from the very beginning, Vincent carried an invisible burden. Exactly 1 year before his birth, his parents had another baby boy. They named him Vincent. Sadly, the child was stillborn. When another son was born exactly 1 year later, they gave him the same name. Every Sunday young Vincent walked past the cemetery with his family and saw a gravestone bearing his own name and almost the same birthday. Imagine being a child and discovering that someone with your exact name had died before you were born. Many historians believe this deeply affected his emotions and shaped the loneliness that followed him throughout his life. Even as a little boy, Vincent was different from other children. He rarely joined games or noisy gatherings. Instead, he wandered through forests, fields, and gardens, quietly observing birds, trees, flowers, and changing skies. Nature fascinated him more than people did. He could spend hours watching sunlight fall across a wheat field or studying the shape of clouds moving slowly across the horizon. His mother noticed his curiosity and encouraged him to draw simple sketches of flowers and landscapes. Those early drawings were rough, but they revealed something unusual. Vincent did not simply copy what he saw. He tried to capture how it made him feel. At school he was intelligent but reserved. Teachers described him as polite and hardworking, yet distant. Making friends never came easily. While other students laughed together, Vincent often sat alone reading books or staring thoughtfully out of classroom windows. His family hoped that with age he would become more confident, but the opposite happened. The older he grew, the quieter he became. At 16 years old, Vincent left school and began working for Goupil & C, one of Europe's largest art dealers. For someone who admired paintings, the job seemed perfect. He learned about famous artists, wealthy collectors, and the international art market. His employers appreciated his dedication and transferred him first to The Hague, then to London, and later to Paris. Vincent believed his future was finally taking shape. While living in London, something happened that changed everything. Vincent fell deeply in love with Eugenie Lawyer, the daughter of the woman who rented him a room. She was kind, intelligent, and friendly, and Vincent imagined building a future with her. After gathering all his courage, he confessed his feelings. She gently but firmly rejected him because she was already engaged to someone else. Vincent was devastated. The rejection broke his heart. Friends noticed an immediate change. He became withdrawn, stopped enjoying his work, and lost interest in almost everything around him. His cheerful personality disappeared. Instead of talking about paintings, he began asking difficult questions about life, suffering, and faith. His employers grew frustrated because Vincent no longer cared about selling expensive art to wealthy customers. He even criticized people who bought paintings only as investments rather than appreciating their beauty. Eventually he lost his job. Suddenly unemployed and emotionally broken, Vincent searched desperately for a new purpose. Inspired by his father's profession, he decided to become a preacher. He believed helping poor people might finally give meaning to his life. He studied religion with determination but struggled to pass the required examinations. Even after failing, he refused to give up. He traveled to the poor mining district of Borinage in Belgium and volunteered as a missionary. Unlike many religious workers, Vincent lived exactly like the miners he served. He gave away his clothes, shared his food, cared for injured workers and slept in simple conditions. The miners respected him because they knew he genuinely cared. Church leaders, however, were horrified. They believed a preacher should appear respectable, not poor. Vincent's clothes became worn, his appearance rough and his health declined because he constantly sacrificed his own comfort for others. Instead of praising his compassion, church officials dismissed him. Once again, Vincent found himself rejected. Standing alone without a career, without money, and without direction, he entered one of the darkest periods of his life. Yet it was during those lonely days that destiny quietly changed forever. While walking through villages and mining towns, Vincent began carrying a small pencil and notebook. He sketched tired workers, old women, children, cottages and farmers returning home after long days in the fields. Every drawing brought him a strange sense of peace. For the first time in years, he felt truly alive. At 27 years old, when many artists had already established successful careers, Vincent made the boldest decision of his life. He would become an artist. Almost everyone around him believed he was making another terrible mistake. Some relatives laughed. Others worried he would never earn enough to survive. Vincent himself had doubts, but something inside him refused to stop. He believed that through painting he could express emotions words could never explain. That single decision would eventually change the history of art forever, although neither Vincent nor anyone around him could possibly imagine what was about to happen. After deciding to become an artist at the age of 27, Vincent van Gogh faced an enormous challenge. Unlike many painters of his generation, he had received almost no formal artistic education. He had passion, determination and endless curiosity, but very little technical skill. Instead of becoming discouraged, Vincent treated every day as another opportunity to improve. He filled page after page with sketches of hands, faces, shoes, chairs, trees, fields and ordinary people. He believed that before an artist could paint beauty, he first had to understand reality. Every mistake became another lesson. Every failed drawing became another step forward. His progress was slow, but his determination was extraordinary. The one person who never stopped believing in him was his younger brother, Theo van Gogh. Theo worked as an art dealer in Paris and understood how difficult Vincent's life had become. Every month he sent money so Vincent could buy paint, brushes, canvas, and enough food to survive. Without Theo's support, Vincent would almost certainly have been forced to abandon painting forever. Their letters became the heart of their relationship. They discussed dreams, fears, loneliness, religion, colors, paintings, and the future. Those letters would later become one of history's greatest collections of personal correspondence, allowing the world to understand the thoughts of a misunderstood genius. Vincent's earliest paintings focused on ordinary working people. He admired farmers because they earned everything through honest labor. Instead of painting kings, queens, or wealthy businessmen, he painted tired workers returning home after long days in the fields. One of his first important works, The Potato Eaters, showed a poor family sitting around a small table sharing a simple evening meal. Their rough hands, Tired faces and dimly lit room reflected the difficult reality of rural life. Vincent was proud of the painting because he believed it respected hard-working people. Critics, however, completely rejected it. They described it as dark, ugly, and poorly painted. Some even mocked Vincent openly. Once again, he faced rejection, but instead of giving up, he continued studying and improving. In 1886, Vincent moved to Paris to live with Theo. That decision changed everything. Paris was the center of the modern art world. There he discovered a new generation of painters experimenting with brighter colors, lighter brushstrokes, and entirely different ways of seeing nature. Artists such as Claude Monet, Camille Pissarro, and Edgar Degas inspired Vincent to leave behind the dark colors of his early works. Slowly his paintings began filling with bright yellows, deep blues, brilliant greens, and glowing oranges. He realized that color could express emotion just as powerfully as facial expressions or words. His brushstrokes became faster, thicker, and more energetic. Instead of painting exactly what he saw, Vincent painted what he felt. Although his artistic style improved dramatically, his personal life remained difficult. He still struggled to build lasting friendships. Many people admired his passion but found his intense personality overwhelming. Vincent could spend hours talking excitedly about art, philosophy, and human suffering while forgetting to eat or sleep. Some believed he was brilliant. Others quietly thought he was unstable. Crowded Paris eventually exhausted him. Vincent dreamed of finding a peaceful place where artists could live together, inspire one another, and create beautiful work surrounded by nature. In early 1888, he traveled south to the French town of Alès. The moment he arrived, he fell in love with the golden sunlight, endless wheat fields, colorful flowers, and clear blue skies. Everything seemed brighter than anything he had ever seen before. He rented a small yellow house that would later become famous around the world. Vincent imagined filling it with artists working side by side, encouraging one another every day. The person he most wanted to join him was the talented painter Paul Gauguin. After months of letters and persuasion, Gauguin finally accepted the invitation. At first, the two artists enjoyed painting together. They explored sunflower fields, country roads, orchards, and quiet cafes while discussing art late into the night. Vincent believed his dream had finally come true. During this period, he painted many of his now famous sunflower series, hoping to decorate the yellow house before Gauguin's arrival. Those bright yellow flowers became symbols of friendship, hope, and happiness. Today they are among the most recognizable paintings in history. But life inside the yellow house gradually became tense. Vincent and Gauguin had completely different personalities. Vincent was emotional, sensitive, and impulsive. Gauguin was confident, practical, and often critical. Small disagreements slowly turned into heated arguments. Every conversation about painting became a debate. Every disagreement left Vincent more anxious than before. He feared losing another person he cared about. Finally, one evening, after another serious argument, Gauguin announced he was leaving Alls. Vincent was devastated. The fear of abandonment that had haunted him since childhood suddenly became overwhelming. Later that night, during what historians believe was a severe mental health crisis, Vincent picked up a razor and cut off part of his own left ear. Bleeding heavily, he wrapped the injured ear in cloth before collapsing from exhaustion. The shocking incident spread rapidly throughout Alls. Many local residents became frightened of him. Some signed petitions demanding that he be removed from the town. The artist who only wanted to create beauty had suddenly become known as the strange man everyone feared. Yet even after experiencing one of the darkest nights of his life, Vincent refused to abandon painting. In fact, the greatest masterpieces of his entire career were still waiting to be created. After the incident in Alls, Vincent van Gogh was admitted to a local hospital where doctors treated both his physical injuries and his worsening mental condition. News of what had happened spread quickly throughout the town. Many people no longer saw Vincent as a gifted painter. Instead, they viewed him as a dangerous man whose behavior frightened the community. The rejection hurt him deeply. Throughout his life, Vincent had searched for acceptance, yet once again he found himself completely alone. Realizing he needed professional help, he made a courageous decision. In May 1889, Vincent voluntarily entered the St. Paul de Mossol Psychiatric Hospital in Saint-Rémy-de-Provence. Unlike many hospitals of that era, the asylum was surrounded by peaceful gardens, olive trees, lavender fields, and beautiful rolling hills. Although he was a patient, doctors allowed him to continue painting whenever his condition was stable. For Vincent, painting was no longer simply a passion. It became his way of surviving. Life inside the asylum was unpredictable. Some days he felt calm, hopeful, and filled with creative energy. On those days he painted from sunrise until sunset without stopping. Other days were far more difficult. Severe mental episodes left him confused, exhausted, and unable to work for long periods. During those dark moments he questioned whether he would ever recover. Yet every time he regained enough strength to hold a paintbrush again, he returned immediately to his easel. He refused to surrender to despair. It was inside the walls of that hospital that Vincent created some of the greatest paintings ever produced by any artist in history. Every morning he looked through the window of his room and observed the changing sky above the quiet village. Instead of copying nature exactly as he saw it, Vincent painted the emotions those landscapes awakened inside him. His brushstrokes became larger, more energetic, and almost alive. Trees appeared to dance, stars seemed to swirl across the heavens, and even ordinary fields looked filled with movement and emotion. Then came one unforgettable night. Looking through his window, Vincent watched countless stars shining above the peaceful countryside. While most people simply saw a beautiful night sky, Vincent imagined the entire universe moving like powerful waves. The moon glowed brilliantly. The stars seemed to spin across the darkness. The sky itself appeared alive. Inspired by that vision, he painted what would later become his most famous masterpiece, the Starry Night. Today it hangs inside the Museum of Modern Art in New York and is recognized as one of the greatest paintings in human history. Millions of visitors travel from around the world simply to stand before it. Yet when Vincent completed the painting, almost nobody cared. No wealthy collector rushed to buy it. No famous critic praised it. It was simply another canvas created by a lonely man living inside a psychiatric hospital. During his stay at Saint-Rémy, Vincent also painted olive groves, flowering gardens, cypress trees, wheat fields, mountain landscapes, and peaceful country roads. Every painting carried powerful emotion. Rather than showing the world exactly as it looked, Vincent showed the world as it felt. His art had become deeply personal. Every brushstroke revealed hope, fear, loneliness, and beauty existing together on the same canvas. Throughout this difficult period, Theo continued supporting his brother with letters filled with encouragement. Whenever Vincent doubted himself, Theo reminded him that his work mattered even if the world failed to recognize it. Vincent often replied that painting remained the only thing keeping him alive. He believed that as long as he could create art, there was still hope. Eventually, doctors believed his condition had improved enough for him to leave the asylum. In May 1890, Vincent moved to the peaceful village of Auvers-sur-Oise near Paris, where he came under the care of Dr. Paul Gachet, a physician who appreciated both medicine and art. Dr. Gachet understood Vincent's emotional struggles better than most people. The beautiful countryside surrounding Auvers immediately inspired Vincent once again. He returned to painting with unbelievable determination. During only the final months of his life, he completed nearly one painting every single day. Wheat fields, cottages, village streets, gardens, rivers, and portraits poured from his imagination faster than ever before. Friends noticed that although Vincent appeared calmer than before, sadness still remained beneath the surface. Financial problems continued. He still depended almost entirely on Theo for support. At the same time, Theo himself was experiencing difficulties at work while caring for his growing family. Vincent quietly worried that he had become a burden to the brother who had sacrificed everything for him. Those thoughts filled him with guilt. Still, every morning Vincent picked up his paints and walked into the countryside. Under changing skies filled with dramatic clouds, he painted endless golden wheat fields stretching toward the horizon. His brush moved quickly across each canvas, almost as though he somehow sensed time was running out. Without realizing it, Vincent van Gogh was approaching the final chapter of his extraordinary life, a chapter that would transform him from an unknown struggling artist into one of history's greatest legends. During the final months of his life, Vincent van Gogh painted with an intensity that amazed everyone around him. It was as though he knew every sunrise was precious. Every field, every cloud, every tree, and every ray of light became another opportunity to create something beautiful. In only 70 days, he completed around 70 paintings. It was an astonishing achievement. Most artists would consider that the work of several years, yet Vincent created masterpiece after masterpiece while carrying emotional pain that few people could truly understand. The wheat fields surrounding Auvers-sur-Oise became his favorite subject. He walked through them almost every day carrying his easel, brushes, and canvas. The endless golden fields beneath dramatic skies reflected exactly how he felt inside, full of beauty, hope, loneliness, and uncertainty all at once. One of his final masterpieces, Wheatfield with Crows, showed dark birds flying above a lonely road disappearing into the distance. For many years people believed the painting symbolized Vincent's troubled state of mind and perhaps even foreshadowed his death. Whether that interpretation is true or not, the painting remains one of the most emotional works in the history of art. Despite continuing to paint every day, Vincent never escaped financial hardship. He still depended almost entirely on Theo for support. Every letter between the two brothers revealed deep love, gratitude, and respect. Vincent often apologized for needing financial help, believing he had become a burden. Theo never agreed. To him, Vincent was not a failure. He believed with all his heart that his brother possessed extraordinary talent, even if the rest of the world failed to recognize it. Tragically, that recognition never arrived while Vincent was alive. During his lifetime he sold only one confirmed painting, The red vineyard. The money changed nothing. He remained poor until the very end. Imagine creating hundreds of breathtaking masterpieces while believing that almost nobody appreciated your work. Many people would have abandoned their dream. Vincent continued because painting was never about becoming rich. It was the only language through which he could express his deepest emotions. On July 27, 1890, Vincent left his room carrying his painting equipment just as he had done countless times before. He walked toward the familiar wheat fields outside the village. Exactly what happened there remains one of history's greatest mysteries. According to the traditional account, Vincent suffered a gunshot wound to his chest, believed to have been self-inflicted. However, some modern historians have questioned that conclusion, suggesting other possibilities based on later investigations. More than a century later, nobody knows with complete certainty exactly what happened in those final moments. Despite his terrible injury, Vincent somehow managed to walk back to the inn where he was staying. The people there immediately realized something was terribly wrong and called for medical help. Doctors treated him as best they could, but the wound was too severe. When Theo received the news, he rushed immediately to his brother's bedside. The two brothers spent Vincent's final hours together. Theo held Vincent's hand, speaking softly and offering comfort. Throughout Vincent's difficult life, Theo had been his greatest supporter, closest friend, and strongest believer. Now he refused to leave his brother alone during his final moments. In the early hours of July 29, 1890, Vincent van Gogh passed away at only 37 years old. His reported final words were heartbreaking. "The sadness will last forever." Only a small number of people attended his funeral. There were no huge crowds. No famous critics praised his genius. No museums competed to display his paintings. His canvases surrounded the room where his funeral took place, almost as if they were silently saying goodbye to the man who had created them. The tragedy did not end there. Theo was devastated by the loss of the brother he loved so deeply. Already struggling with poor health, he died less than 6 months later. The two brothers who had supported one another through every hardship were eventually buried side by side. For a brief moment, it seemed the world had forgotten Vincent van Gogh forever. But history had made a terrible mistake. As years passed, artists, collectors and historians slowly began discovering the extraordinary emotion and originality inside Vincent's paintings. Museums organized exhibitions. Critics who had once ignored him now described him as one of the greatest artistic visionaries who had ever lived. Prices for his paintings rose beyond anything anyone could have imagined. Today, Vincent van Gogh is celebrated as one of history's greatest artists. His masterpieces hang in the world's most famous museums. Millions of visitors travel across continents every year just to stand before paintings like the Starry Night, sunflowers, irises, and wheat field with crows. Some of his works have sold for hundreds of millions of dollars, making them among the most valuable paintings ever created. The man who struggled to afford food during his lifetime became one of the most celebrated artists in human history. Vincent's story reminds us that success does not always arrive when we expect it. Sometimes the world fails to recognize true greatness until it is too late. His life teaches us that rejection does not define talent, failure does not erase purpose, and even the darkest moments can create something unforgettable. Although Vincent van Gogh believed he had achieved very little, his paintings continue inspiring millions of people around the world more than a century after his death. His legacy proves that true greatness is not measured by immediate success, but by the lasting impact left on future generations. If you enjoyed this true story and want to discover more extraordinary lives that changed history forever, subscribe to Talevora and join us on another unforgettable journey. Because every legend hides a secret, and every secret has a story waiting to be told.